One of the first things we have to do to get started is just come right inside this handle right here. You're going to find a flap that you can lift up and then remove this piece right here. Set that aside. Underneath that, you're going to find a mounting bolt. Go ahead and remove that as well. Now we're going to carefully use a trim tool and try to get underneath this. We want to be very careful not to damage our door panel. There we are. Now that we have that removed from the door, we're going to continue on by removing our wiring. For the mirror switch, you can see there's a tab right where my thumb is. Go ahead and give that a squeeze and remove it. Take a peek at it. If you see any funny colors, that's corrosion and it needs to be dealt with. This looks great, so let's set it aside. Continue on to the rest of your wiring harnesses. Set this aside. Looking up by where your handle is, you're going to see this little port right here. We want to just go ahead and remove this cover. Now we can remove that Torx head screw. Now let's move along to the side of the door panel, remove this Torx head screw, and then there'll be one located on the bottom as well. With all of our door panel mounting screws out of there, let's continue on with our nice plastic trim tool. We're going to get in between this area and start popping the door panel away from the door. All right, now that we broke that free, we can continue on by removing this. Set that aside. Go ahead and grab onto that door panel. Carefully remove it from the vehicle. Now I'm just going to take this, I'm going to plug it in right here and right there. Now let's get this off of here. Go ahead and grab onto these tabs. Get that right out of the way. Let's remove this plug right here. Now using the switch with the key in the on position, we're going to bring the window up and we want to be paying attention inside this hole right here. And then there's another one over on this side. We're going to be paying attention to both of those, and essentially what we want to see is the window come up so we can see the mounting bolts. As you can see right there, I have one of my mounting bolts that holds the window to the window regulator. And then if you were to look over on the other side, you can see the bolt as well. At this point, we'll turn off the key and disconnect our switch. Now we're going to start disconnecting some more of our wiring. I want to remove the speaker from this area so I can disconnect these two wires right here. Grab onto that speaker, give it a little wiggle and remove it. Now we can disconnect it. Go ahead and grab this tab, give it a squeeze, pull it off, and inspect it. Now I'm going to use my forky tool, come in between here, we'll separate this. Should be another one right there, that one just popped right out. As we make our way, any electrical connector, go ahead and disconnect it. I like to use a pick. I'm going to come right along the back side. There should be a tab that you can grab onto. Once you pull on that tab, go ahead and pull it down, inspect it, set it aside. This little red tab that you see right there is a lock for this one. You just go ahead and pull down on that, press on the center tab right there, remove this. There we are. Let's get the cable off of this. Pulls down from this one, and then it'll pull up from that one. Now at this point, you're going to want to make sure that you have some tape in your hand, because what we're going to do is start removing our two mounting bolts that hold the window to the window regulator. Once we do that, we're going to carefully lift the window up, and we're going to tape it so it stays in place. Now with both those bolts out of there isn't anything holding the window to the regulator. We're going to carefully lift this up, put on our tape, but keep in mind gravity works. It's going to try pulling it down. So don't only use two pieces of tape, use your best judgment and make sure the window is secure the entire time. Let's continue on by removing the motor right here. Give this a little wiggle. Inspect it, set it aside. Let's go ahead and pop this off of here. Next, we're going to remove this plate right along here. You're going to find several mounting bolts that look just like this. Remove them all. Now let's carefully grab onto this and remove it from the door itself. Be careful for your cables and your wires as you bring this down. All right, so now that we have this nice and loose and we have it so it's starting to come away from the door, you're going to notice that you still have wiring that's involved right here, and that leads to a couple different things that are located inside the door. Now, some of these things are going to be a little bit hard to access. You can, of course, disconnect them if you would like to. For me personally, I feel comfortable working with the door panel just like this. That way there I don't have to reach up in there and disconnect anything else. Now, there's going to be a couple rivets that hold this side window regulator to this panel. There's one right here, and then there's another one right down there. For the other side, there's one right up here, and then on the other side of the speaker, it's kind of hard to see. This one we're going to have to actually turn over. So once we get to that point, we'll turn over the door panel and we can drill out that last rivet. Now you can either drill out the center of these and then of course use a punch and knock it right out of there. For me personally, I have a cutting wheel and I'm going to use this. When I do this, it's going to create sparks, and I prefer to have them shooting out and away from the passenger compartment. The last rivet that we need to access is this one right here. There it is, friends. Okay, now it's time to get ready to install our brand new window regulator. Something that you're going to notice is you have this strap on here. Go ahead and cut that right off. Now when I do this, I want to make sure that I have my studs lined up with their corresponding holes, and something to pay attention to is the wiring that comes along this side right here. I like to have it so it comes out and in between the door panel and the window regulator itself. Let's go ahead and start those studs right in there, and then we'll take our two nuts, start them on there, and we can move along to the other side. Now let's take the other side. We're going to line those studs up again with the holes that they're supposed to go into. Start in both of those nuts. Once you have all of your mounting nuts started, let's go ahead and snug them up. I'm going to start with this one right here with my ratchet wrench, and then we'll do the other three. On the other side, let's snug these up. Do the same to the rest. Let's take this cable. We're going to slide it right through this hole as well, coming through right near where these wires are. And then we're going to follow our way up to this cable right here and just make sure that it's latched in. You don't want to leave this just hanging out like this. There we are. Now I'm going to take this and I'm just going to line it up along with where it needs to go. Just keep in mind it might potentially pop out, but we also want to try to make sure that it does technically stay right here. Okay, now we're going to carefully start lifting this panel up. You want to be very careful for your wires as you do this. We don't want to cause any pinches on those, but also we're going to have these areas of the window regulator that we want to make sure we slide up and inside the door at the same time. Now we can take some of our mounting bolts. We'll start putting them in there. Once they're all started, we can snug them up. Now that we have all of our mounting bolts started, let's continue on by snugging them all up. Now it's going to be time to put on our window motor. As we do this, we want to make sure that the splines of the window motor line up with the splines on the window regulator. If it looks like yours is pushed out like ours right here, carefully reach up inside the speaker hole and line it up. Now that we have it lined up, start in all three of your bolts and then snug them up. Make sure they're all nice and tight. The next thing we're going to do is start reconnecting in our wiring along here. We've got this one right here. Go ahead and slide it right up on there. Listen for a click, lock it in, give it a tug. Let's follow this down. Now, of course, the tape would just go up and over this right here. Take this, press that in, come right down here. Take your electrical connector, click it in, give it a tug, make our way up here. Let's reconnect in our speaker. As you press this in, make sure the wiring's sitting inside this groove right here. Start in all 4 of your screws, snug them up. At this point, we're going to move along to loosening up these screws right here. That's going to make it so those little clamshells that are on the inside that are supposed to hold up against the window open up for us. After we have both of them open, we can go ahead and slide the window right down and in, and then we'll snug up those screws to hold the window. Now, once you have both of those window holders loosened up, the next thing that we're going to do is carefully start lowering this window down. I said carefully because, of course, as we start lowering this down, if the window doesn't match up with those areas on the window regulator, it could potentially slip down even further and even slam up against the bottom aspect of the door. Once you're sure that the window is sitting in both of these areas here, go ahead and snug them up. Let's go ahead and cover up this hole here. We'll make our way over here. We're going to make sure our cable's nice and secure. Press it down in here, right up right there. Now we're going to take this piece right here, line it up, snap it in. Let's take that door handle, and we're going to take our cable, we'll line it up just like this, and then slide it through the slot. After that, line this area up right here, and gently press it in. Now at this point, we can line it up with the hole on the door, put in our mounting bolt, and snug it up. Now it's going to be time to put our door panel back on. Pay attention to all of your push pins that go around the door. You want to make sure that they line up with the corresponding holes on the door itself. Aside from that, you also have some wiring that's located inside this area. It's going to need to come up and inside this hand area right there. Once you feel as though everything's lined up, go ahead and give it a couple loving bonks to help drive it in. Let's go ahead and start in all of our mounting bolts here. Let's go ahead and grab that little wiring harness here. We'll connect it in. Listen for a click. Careful for your wiring harness under there. Let's connect this in as well. Now we're going to put this in. Let's get our bolt in there. Cover. Okay friends, once you have everything back together, the last thing that you're going to do is go ahead and put the key in the on position and then just test to make sure the window functions properly.